So the next step on this process, next process I should say, on this shelf right here we're going to be doing is we're going to have to mount up these art pieces or shelf supports to the side of this project. And we definitely want to make sure that before we actually put anything on, that it's sanded down really good. And this project right here is looking pretty darn nice. I don't see any pencil lines. It looks like he's got it sanded to about 150, which is pretty nice. You got to remember, every time we start adding new pieces to this, it's going to get a little bit more challenging to sand. You know, right now, if we had glue in here, we'd be spending quite a bit of time on sanding that glue out. So hopefully we wipe that out prior to you know, leaving for the day after we put our back piece on. So we definitely want to make sure that we get this thing all the way sanded up pretty darn nice, because as we start adding on these pieces over here, it's going to get even more challenging to try and sand this stuff. So he's got this sanded up pretty nice, and what we're going to do is we're going to lay this out in this video so that we can get some nail holes drilled to put this together. So here's how I like to do this. We're going to put it in our vise so that the back is facing us. And we know that this particular heart piece is going to be over here. So we're going to draw some lines on this to help us mount this up. In order to do that, we're definitely going to need to use a square, and we're going to need a pencil. And what I like to do is take this square, and we're going to transfer this line here right up, very nice and lightly. We're then going to draw a square line across, lightly as well, because we're going to have to sand that off. Remember, the square needs to be touching the back of our project in order to draw a square. If we just hold it like this, we don't know if we're going to get it square or not. So we have one line right here. Do you remember how thick this piece was?
3/4.
Just 3/4 of an inch. So we have the option of doing two things. All right. Option number one is we could take our scale right here, measure over 3/4, make a line, and draw this like so. Option number two, which we'll do on this side right here, is we'll take our square, we'll draw this line up. Trace it over. As we can take our piece like this, put it right on our line, and trace this side, like so. Both of those work. Now, we know that we're going to have to put some nails in this project so that they go through it here. Okay? So we know that we want the center of we know that we want the nails to go down through the center of this board right here, right? Because that's where it's going to get the best bite. So how wide was this again?
3/4.
It was 3/4. So what's the center of 3/4?
3/8.
And how did you know that?
Double the denominator.
Double the denominator. Okay. So what we can do is we can take our ruler right here, and we'll put this on a whole number, and since we're on the eighths right here, we're going to go over 3 lines for 3/8. 1, 2, 3. And we may as well do the same thing down here. And then we're going to draw our center line, once again lightly, because we're going to have to sand that off. The darker we draw it, the more time we're going to have to sand it. And not the whole world needs to see this, just you and I need to see it for when we're drilling. So we have our center lines down through here. Now we need to know where we're going to place the nails. Should we drive a nail anywhere into this area here? Why not?
You don't want
Is that a weak area?
Yeah.
We maybe split it, right? So I would say we're going to put a nail somewhere in this area here, and somewhere in this area here. So I'll make a little, I say, somewhere around here, and somewhere around here. We'll see what those pieces measure. So we'll grab our scale and we'll go to our end, and that looks about 1 inch in. I like that. And the one up here looks to be about I'd say 4 3/4. So we're going to come in 1 inch, and we're going to come in 4 3/4 inches, both off the back side. So how far are we going to come in with our one line? How far in are we going to come with our one crosshair?
3/8.
Nope, we already draw that one. Remember our nail hole right here, we wanted our one nail hole to come in at 1 inch. We want our other one to come down in at 4 3/4 of an inch. That way when we put our nails in, it will be right here and right here. So So we're going to come in 1 inch and 4 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
So where are we going to put our first crosshair?
It's 1 inch.
1 inch, and our second one is 4 3/4. So we have a crosshair here and a crosshair here. We're going to do the same thing down here. How far are we coming in?
1 inch.
And
4 3/4.
all right. And since we're going to be nailing this with 4D nails, should we use a 4D nail for our drill bit?
Yes.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and grab our safety glasses real quick. I'll make sure we have this all plugged in. All right. And we set this at 3/4 of an inch. And why is that important? Do you remember?
So it doesn't penetrate through the.
Okay. Now, would it really matter out here where there's nothing underneath it?
No.
But would it matter when we drill over top of our table? Yeah, that kind of make me upset if we drilled into our table. So remember, we're going to want to drill that nice and straight and square when we do it. So let's go ahead and put our drill bit right there. Looks pretty good. Good. Down here. Go ahead. Good. All right. So this has now been successfully drilled through. There's 2 more lines that we need to draw on this. And that's going to be a line here and a line here. And those lines are important so that when we put this on, so that we hold this thing square to our project. And all we're going to do that is bring this square, keep it tight to the back and tight to my side. And we draw a nice, crisp square line. Is it very important to draw this one light?
Yeah.
Yes, because we're going to have to sand this out later on once this piece is on. We'll do the same thing over here. And do you see how when we put that on, how that piece right there will allow us to keep this piece square to our project? We can see our line right there. This will maintain a nice 90-degree angle to our project, which is what we are after. All right? And yeah, we're going to have to sand that line out later on once it's installed, which is why it's very important to go nice and light. So next video, we'll show you guys how to go ahead and put these together. So we have successfully drilled these holes out for our side pieces. That's what we were working on with our layout. And these pieces here will eventually go like this. But there's one other nail that we need to drill, and that nail is going to have to go through here and into this bottom piece down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our 2 pieces right here and figure out which pieces we want to have on our outside, which pieces we want to have on our inside. Generally speaking, most people think that you'd want to have the prettiest side on the outside. But when you're actually looking at the shelf, you see more of the inside than you do the outside. So I would say let's put our pretty pieces to our inside. So if we take a look at this over here, we have one that had some blowout, but it's sanded out pretty nice. So maybe we'll leave this on the outside. The inside looks pretty nice. And this one over here looks pretty nice the whole way. So I'm looking at these pieces that he has, and they're in pretty good shape. But before we will put these on, he will have to do just a little bit more filing and sanding here. We can see he's got a couple little relief cuts still in here. So he'll have to spend a few minutes getting these good before we put them on. But it's still fine for us to go ahead and drill these here out today. So what I like to do is, since we've decided that these 2 here are going to be our outsides, we'll just put an O and an O. That way we just know there's our outsides. When we go to put this on our project right here, we have to decide how far down we're going to come with that nail and how far in we're going to come with that nail. Well, we know that this is 3/4 of an inch thick. So we know that we want to put that nail right down through the center right here. And what's the center at 3/4 of an inch?
3/8.
It is 3/8. So what we would do is on our outside right here, we'd measure in 3/8 of an inch. Our right, and we draw ourselves a nice 3/8 inch line. You would measure it, I don't need to. What we're also going to do is we're going to measure this particular piece right here. It measures 2.5 inches. So we know that we want our nail somewhere, I would say probably right around here. And if we take a look, that's right around 2 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure down 2 inches, and we'll put our other crosshair. So right here we have a nice crosshair where we can go ahead and drill this down through. We're going to use a 4D nail to drill because we're going to put a 4D nail in. So why don't you go ahead and you can drill that. While you're drilling that, I'll show everybody over here outside. Measure in 3/8. Oh, we didn't plug her in, did we? I hate when that happens. So I marked my 2 3/8 inch lines. Drawing it in. And we're going to come down 2 inches. So I have one there for you. You can go ahead and do that. So we're going to have him go ahead and clean these up a little bit, and when we rejoin the video, we'll be ready to put these here back on. If you take a look, see how that nail is going to go right down into here. It'll give us some nice adhesion, and we'll be able to go ahead and clamp this thing together, and we'll be in really good shape. So we'll join that here in a little bit. All right, so we've got this all ready to go and ready to be put together. Got our 2 holes drilled here. Have our 1 side hole drilled right here. And the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start putting these here together. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use a vise for the first one, and then we're going to use a stool and the vise for the second one. We'll show you how to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do, notice how we left this square line right here. This is going to be important because when we go to put this piece on, we don't want this piece cockeyed like this or cockeyed in like this. We want it to be good and square right down that line right there. So we're going to take this and we're going to put this over here. Just like so. And this piece is going to be in our vise, but it's going to be hanging over a little bit because it would actually wind up hitting if we put it all the way in the center. Square it up a little bit. All right. Make sure we can see this really well. So now that we're ready to put this together, it's going to take 2 people. We have the person that's going to nail it, who's going to be the kid whose project it is, and we're going to have the helper. In this case, it happens to be me. And my job is going to be keeping it flush, tight, and square. We're going to go over how to do that right now. So we're going to grab a little bit of glue. And we're going to put a little bit right down the top of our project. We don't really need too much. Start in a finger, end in a finger. We'll bring this over here. Carefully set it on here. And I'm going to double check it on the bottom on our square line. We are 100% right on our money. I'm going to keep it good and flush at the back right here for him. And if you notice, I'm kind of pulling it a little bit taut as well. I'm going to put my glasses on. Would you grab a nail? Go ahead and put that one in. Remember, we're going to hit it close to down all the way, but not quite. Good. I'm going to check our front side here, make sure we're good on the money. And we are. Go ahead. Nice and easy. Yep, perfect. While we're here, we may as well set those nails. It's not going to take much. I'm just going to keep my hand down here for a little bit extra holding power. Nice and easy. Oh, nice and easy. That one's good. Perfect. And while we're over here, we're going to go ahead and put in this nail right here. So go ahead and grab one more nail. And it's sticking out a little bit down here at the bottom, so I'm just going to push it in for you with my fingers as I do it. Let's get that nail started there. I'll move off to the side. And you're right-handed, right? So you're going to want to stand over here. Yep, and you'll turn the hammer sideways. Stand for you. Good. Nice job. And to set this nail, what I'll do is I'll actually pick it up for you. And notice I'm going to hold this part here on the table because you're applying your force right here. So you can go ahead and set that nail. A little bit. Perfect. Now, we can see that we're open a little bit right here. So what we're going to wind up doing is putting a clamp in here and tightening it up. And we'll have Kevin go grab us one of those. Show you some in that little toolbox here, Kevin, on top of the yellow cabinet. As he's doing that, we're going to get this thing set up for our next piece. And in order to do that, we're going to bring this part here over. And we'll just lightly put this in our vise. I'm going to grab a stack of books. Put them on the stool right here. And we'll figure out where this wants to be. Now we need to nail over the vise because that's where it's holding it. And obviously we couldn't put this thing in a vise on our table because we wouldn't be able to, keep it at the same height. That's why we have to use this. All right, so we're gonna take this here. We're going to square this up a little bit, like so. I'm going to snug that there up. It's calling to go for a little bit more. So what we're going to do is put an extra book right here. And now it's saying, hey, we can go up a little bit over here. Cat and mouse game. There we go. This is nice and tight over here. We're looking pretty good. Let's see where it looks at the bottom. Beautiful. Everything looks pretty nice. We're now ready to go ahead and put some glue on it. This flush for you, and put your nail right there. Good. And I'll check your front for you. Let's see here. Beautiful right there. Nice and easy. Good. Let's go ahead and set those nails. And easy. Perfect. And got to put one more right here, so let's put that nail there in. Now, this particular one right here is giving me, this board's kind of cockeyed a little bit in this direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a glass real quick, and we're going to attempt to pull that in a little bit. A little bit too much for me to try to do with my hands. Let's see if this is big enough. Perfect, nice and flush. You may go ahead and do that one. Easy, good. Let's go ahead and set that nail while we're here. Kind of a tricky area. All right. A little bit. Perfect. All right. So while we have this thing held right here, I'm going to take one of these clamps. And we're going to put this one down here. Now, What we don't want to do is we don't want to mar up the top of this project right here. So we can do a couple things. We can use a scrap piece of wood. We can use a scrap piece of sandpaper. Anything that's going to prevent us from leaving the mark of the project. Let's take a look. Beautiful, good and tight. We'll do the same thing over here. Let's take a look at this one. Now this one happens to have the plastic cap still left on it. So nobody lost this one yet, so we can leave that one right like that. And we're tightening it up. Now, what's going to hold this tomorrow when we take these clamps off?
The glue.
The glue, right? The glue is what's actually holding this project together. The nails are just keeping it in line, square, flush, stuff like that until everything dries. Then the glue is going to hold it. Now, the only other thing that we want to do right now, we do want to leave these clamps on here for about an hour. Since we won't be in here an hour, we'll leave them on for good. But we're going to take a look right here, and we're going to notice that we're still good and square on this line right here. Now, what do we see right here, Brad? What's that?
Glue.
Yeah, we got a little bit of glue. So how are we going to deal with that?
Get a wet paper towel.
Yeah, nice folded up wet paper towel. We're going to clean that up really nicely. If there's any on this side, we would do that as well. If there was any on this side, we would do it. It looks like we just have that one little spot right there. But if we take note, hopefully we can see this in the video too. We're good and tight here the whole way, which is good. We're good and tight here the whole way, which is good. Let's take a look at our back. All right, we're really close to flush right here. And this one over here, we're 100% on the money. We're gonna leave this stuff here so that it dries, but this project's in pretty good shape. We're gonna get him to wipe off that glue. Other than that, the only thing that's left to do on this, a little bit of 220 finish sand. We're gonna go over how to put those shaker pegs in. You're gonna put some finish on it, so it'll be in great shape.